We have with us Mike Hogan, who is one of 4 candidates vying for 2 seats on the Kill Devil Hills Board of Commissioners. The way Kill Devil Hills elections work, the top 2 vote getters out of the 4 will become members of the next Board of Commissioners. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
There's a possibility that you may replace an incumbent, and you're asking the voters to possibly do that. What action or actions of the current board prompted you to run, and what would you do differently?
I wouldn't say it's one specific action, but I think the way decisions were made, in a lot of cases I believe they were short-sighted. I think that we're at a point right now with our town where we really need to look further down the road. What's our town going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? And if we don't figure that out now, we're going to keep making decisions, and we may look back on those 5 or 10 years from now and say, why did we do that? We really didn't have to do that. We should have thought what might happen later or what the town might look like at some place down the road. So my main thing is I think there's kind of been a lack of vision, and I think we need to have a vision in the town, and if I'm a commissioner, I'm going to suggest that we come up with a long-term vision for the town and make it an official policy and set specific goals. It's just not something ambiguous, and then have a strategy to reach those goals. And then each time a decision needs to be made with any subjects that come up, any site plans, any changes in code, whatever happens to come up, we always have to look back at that vision that we've created, that policy, and say, does this match our vision? Because we have to think about what's down the road, because I have children and grandchildren, and I want it to look nice for them in the future. I want it to be a really, really nice place. It is now, and I'd like to keep it that way.
The board decision to approve Lowe's and build a large store was controversial in the community. How would you have handled the situation differently, and do you feel the town could have prevailed in a lawsuit had they denied Lowe's?
Now, I might want to take the second part first, and I would say that if things had been handled differently, they might have been able to prevail. But once the ball got rolling and there was code changes made to accommodate them, by that time it was already too late and there was no turning back. However, if in the very beginning, when the first communication from Lowe's to the town began, which was on March the 6th in a letter from Lowe's to the town attorney, the planning board and the public, they weren't aware of this. They didn't know this was going on, and I think if the public would have known that this was going on, they would have had a time to think about it and try to figure out what it's going to look like and decide if they want to do it or not. And by the time it was finally publicly announced, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the commissioners' meetings in July, or it was late June or July. It was mentioned this thing had gone so far at that point. There had already been code changes made to accommodate them, and they were coming in. And my thought is that if the people would have known before, if they would have known before any decisions were made, that they might have had an opportunity to express their feelings. And if the town followed the wishes of the people, where it seemed like the majority of people didn't want it, then with the town's reluctance to try to accommodate them and the public opposition to it, they might have decided that they didn't think that it was a climate that they wanted to come into.
Kill Devil Hills has put beach nourishment on the table. Do you support this effort, and do you have any impressions of the early results from that too?
I do support the beach nourishment here. I know it's been a very hot topic for many, many years. As far as the Nag's Head results of the Nag's Head nourishment, I was very impressed. I was really hoping that it would really be good, and in all honesty, it was even better than I thought. When it was, my wife works on the ocean front, manages a hotel, and I went down there and I started from there and went south and looked at, and I was just amazed that it was so far from the dunes out to where the water was. And even after Irene, some of the beach was lost, yes, and a little bit of it's coming back naturally. And I think that's going to happen, but I think it's going to last long enough to be to prove that the decision was a good one. So I think that if we can structure it here in Kill Devil Hills financially with the money from the Beach Nourishment Fund and any other monies that may be available to us at the time. And we do it in a way that is not too much of a burden on the people. And I definitely think we should go. And the reason is, besides all that, is I kind of look at the beach as kind of like our factory. We don't have a factory. We don't have an industry except tourism. And if you picture the beach as a factory that employs all of us, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the beach and the tourists. So if you picture it like it's the place that you work, and you want to take care of that, and you want to protect it. If you worked somewhere else in a building or for some other facility, you wouldn't want to see it deteriorate and disappear. And I don't want that to happen here.
As a new commissioner, what new issues or concerns or ideas would you bring to the board?
There are, the main issue I think we have to deal with in the future is the reassessment that's coming up, but that's more of a financial matter. What concerns me is that, as I've already mentioned, the one thing is trying to create that vision so we know where to go. And another thing that I'm very concerned about is the transparency. I mean, it's a very overused word in politics, I understand that. And I apologize for that, but the opposite of that in government is privacy, and we don't need that. There's been some of the decisions that are made that have been made without the public. It's already been made before the public has heard about it. And I want to try to correct that. And I also think that we should just use common sense, sound common sense. And oftentimes when, in my experience with the town, I think that some of the decisions just kind of made me wonder why we were doing this, because I didn't think it was a good thing or else necessary. So I think that's one thing we should do. And the main thing I want to do for myself, again, having the experience dealing with the town, is I want to be able to do everything I can to solicit input from the community. Whatever means are available now, use them to their best advantage. If we have to figure out another way to communicate with the public, we need to do that, because I want to listen to what they have to say and consider it, and then make a decision based on my own experience and my knowledge of the subject, which I should have if I make a decision on the subject, but also to be able to use that knowledge to take that decision to its fruition, and with the public being involved, we listen to what they want to say, like on the last citizen survey, the most recent one, and then we take that along with the knowledge and information we have to make a sound decision.
You mentioned reassessments, and that naturally leads to our last question. Do you see any scenarios where taxes might be raised during your term?
Well, first of all, let me say I would be reluctant to vote to raise taxes. I would not say that there's not going to be a time when that needs to be done. In the last few years, we haven't raised taxes, which has not only cost us that revenue, but also cost us a lot of the revenue sharing that we would have gotten, which is based on the tax rate, which is really an equitable system, but that's the way it's set up. And I think the idea that someone is going to tell you that they're not going to raise taxes is, I don't believe people that say that, because if they really mean that, that means that they're not going to be serving the community, because sometimes there's a time when you have to do that, and if that's what has to be done for you to serve the community properly, to keep services going, even at a minimum, like they just about are now, I would not make a promise, because it's a promise that I know I couldn't keep necessarily indefinitely, and if I did promise that, I'd be shortchanged in the community.
I want to remind our viewers, this is Mike Hogan. He is running, he's one of 4 candidates running for 2 seats on the Kill Devil Hills Board of Commissioners. For coming to see us today, and the Outer Banks Sports viewers, thank you.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and it's a privilege.
Thank you.